Good evening. Welcome to McKinnon Council Chambers here. It is December 15th, 2014, and we are calling to order tonight's Southbridge Town Council meeting. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we actually begin with the roll call and the rest, I just wanted to take a moment. It was 2 years ago yesterday that about 90-minute ride south of here was a tragedy that took place at Sandy Hook Elementary School, where 20 children and 6 teachers and staff members lost their lives. I just wanted to take a brief moment of silence in their honor. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilor Carrasco?
Present.
Councilor Clements?
Present.
Councilor Estrada?
Present.
Councilor Manna?
Present.
Councilor Moriarty?
Present.
Councilor Peliquin?
Present.
Councilor Steves? Councilor Vandal?
Present.
Councilor Vecchia?
Present.
9 here.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3, consider and accept Town Council meeting minutes of Monday, December 8th, 2014.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions, Council Manna?
Thank you. On page 10, during Council's forum when I spoke, I was speaking on a statement that Governor Baker had made in regards to releasing Chapter 90 money, and I would just like this corrected. It just says, Governor Baker took office. He stated the first thing he would do is release Chapter 90 money, and has not to date. That's not the case. He's going to release the money. If it's not released, he would do this if it was not released before Governor Patrick left office. So if we could just get that correct, and that's all.
Any other questions or clarifications? Seeing none, a simple hand vote is fine for the minutes as amended. All in favor? Unanimous? Bless you. Moving on to agenda item number 4, subcommittee reports. A, General Government. Councilor Clements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did not have any meetings scheduled. I have no meeting minutes. I assume we will have something coming up in January. We'll post it as required. Thank you.
B, DPW. Councilor Vandal.
No report, but I have a meeting scheduled for January 7th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. C, Education and Human Services. Councilor Peliquin.
Thank you. A meeting of the EHS Subcommittee was held on Wednesday, December 10th, 2014, in the George Parent Conference Room. In attendance were myself, Councilor Steves, Councilor Vecchia, Citizen Members Martina Shea and Kristen O'Clair. Also in attendance was Councilor Estrada. I called the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. Agenda item number 1, vote to the appointment of Sylvia Goman to the Council on Aging for a 2-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2016 due to member resignation. There was agreement among the councilors to recommend this appointment. A motion was made by Councilor Steves and seconded by Martina Shea with a favorable recommendation to Council to recommend the appointment of Sylvia Gomans to the Council on Aging for a 2-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2016. Vote by a show of hands. All in favor, 5-0. Agenda item number 2, vote the appointment of Virginia Rappo to the Council on Aging for a 3-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2017. There was agreement among the councilors to recommend this appointment. A motion was made by Councilor Vecchia and seconded by Councilor Steves with a favorable recommendation to Council to recommend the appointment of Virginia Rappo to the Council on Aging for a 3-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2017. Vote by a show of hands. All in favor, 5-0. A motion to adjourn was made by Councilor Vecchia and seconded by Councilor Steves. Vote by a show of hands. All in favor, 5-0. I adjourn the meeting at 7:06 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Evelyn Rivera, recording clerk. And I have no meeting scheduled at this time.
Thank you. D, Planning and Development. Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. A meeting of the Planning and Development Subcommittee was held on Thursday, December 11th, 2014, in the Rice Conference Room. In attendance were myself, subcommittee members Councilor Steves, Councilor Estrada, and citizen members Evelyn Petrelli and Wallace McKenzie. Also in attendance were Town Manager Pecos, Cassandra Ackley, and Rose Canoyer. I call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Agenda item number 1, follow up to discussion on the components for FY 2015 Community Development Block Grant application, including a request for proposal for social services, support youth, and vote to submit to council for ratification. Mr. Pecos said this has been updated twice as council has requested that more monies be put into social services. $25,000 came out of house and rehabilitation and $25,000 out of economic development and put into social services. Mr. Pecos said that programs for families and children are needed. There are many people willing to donate their time and talents for these programs, but there is a need for a bridge program to put everything together. He has spoken to many community groups, and the consensus is that a program for children and with parent involvement is needed. Mr. Pecos said that Mrs. Ackley and Mrs. Canoia have been able to get another $100,000 added to the grant proposal, and it now totals $825,000. The additional monies will be distributed as follows: $25,000 put back into house and rehabilitation, $25,000 put back into economic development, $25,000 into social services, and $25,000 into incubator. Mr. Pecos said he has had discussion with area manufacturing companies, and they say there are jobs but no training. There's no business partnership with our Southbridge High School kids as there is with kids going to Bay Path. A prospective program would be to take 10 to 15 kids per year and train them to work in our local manufacturing companies. It would create skilled personnel for these manufacturing companies, which in turn would benefit the town. Mr. Pecos said they have been talking about turning 70 Foster Street into an incubator space. There's a company from Southbridge that is interested in coming to Southbridge and are interested in 70 Foster Street. We might be able to use some of the grant money to rehab this location. These are two suggested programs for the council to discuss and endorse. The staff needs to put the components together to submit to CDBG for the grant by mid-February. No vote was taken at this meeting. A vote will be taken at a future meeting after the public hearings have been done. A motion to adjourn was made by Councilor Steves and seconded by Mr. McKenzie. Vote by a show of hands. All in favor, 5-0. I adjourn the meeting at 7:10 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Evelyn Rivera, recording clerk. And Mr. Chair, I do have a meeting planned for January 6th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. E, protection of persons and property, Councilor Carrasco.
No meeting, no minutes.
F, Town Manager Search Committee, Councilor Carrasco.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we had a meeting that was held on 12/11/2015 at 5 p.m. Where the committees voted unanimously to suspend or indefinitely postpone the town manager search and regroup again in January, moving forward as our current town manager is willing and available to continue and working with us through the budget season, so it will not be interrupted. We will continue our town manager search, and we will be submitting, we have put out a request for search firms to submit their proposals moving forward for January, where we will interview, once again, search firms to reconduct the town manager search process. The reason, if I may explain why we have to do the whole resubmittal of proposals, is under Mass General laws, we cannot just stay with the current firm that we're using, when we would have to resubmit bids to open it up, because we are ending that process. If the council has any questions, I can answer.
Councilor Vecchia.
I have a question about E, protection of persons and property. And what you've done with, I had my hand raised, I want to ask a question too. but after the town manager search, I guess.
Okay, so let's first then just handle the town manager search piece. If there are any other questions or comments, now would be your opportunity. Seeing none, Councilor Vecchia has a question regarding PPP.
To the chairman of PPP, the assistant chief exam test, how do we stand on that?
That is a question that I will defer to our town manager. I believe the process has been completed, and I believe the scores did come in, and the scores were being reviewed, and there would be, after the scores were reviewed, there would be an interview process with the candidates, and those names would be brought forward to the subcommittee.
Thank you.
Am I correct, Town Manager?
Actually, because of the assessment process, you don't typically do interviews following that because the assessment process does that. The Civil Service Commission provides a list, and you're obligated, unless there's some extenuating circumstance, which there is not, to appoint from the top of the list. I have made that offer of employment. I'm awaiting the response. As soon as I get that back, the appointment will be made, and it'll be immediately referred to the PPP. Ditto on the permanent lieutenant appointment, exactly the same process. But in the case of a lieutenant, it's a straight exam, and so an interview does need to be conducted. I conducted that interview today with a single candidate, and again, extended an offer of employment. I'm waiting for the response, and as soon as that's in, I'll make the appointment and again refer it to the PPP. My hope is that the subcommittee could have a meeting, if not next week, which is going to be tough, I understand, but perhaps the following week or not the first week, then we can get it on the council's agenda for your first meeting in January, those two appointments.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. All set.
All right, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5, Chairman's announcements. I have just a few. One is just a reminder, same as was brought out last week. Every 5 years, according to our current charter, we are to put together a charter review. So we are actively soliciting recruits for that committee. There are 5 spots available, and that group there would then go forward, review the town charter, come up with different recommendations, different things they'd like to see twisted, changed, altered in some way, and that would come forward to the council and presumably ultimately to the community. So if you are interested, please contact the manager's office, and Yvonne and company will gladly help you out, fill out the form, the request form, the interest form. Similar along those lines, the same form is available for numerous different commissions and boards that we have in town. Based on a phone call I had this weekend, curious as to what their prereqs were. Just wanted to highlight one. The Airport Commission is still looking for members, and you do not need to be a pilot to be on that commission. You just need to be basically interested in seeing that airport prosper and take off. The joint meeting, there will be a joint meeting between the Town Council and School Committee. Again, late January is when this will be planned for, and councilors, if they have any potential scheduling on conflicts or agenda items they'd like to see, please let me know. Thus far, I have not heard a peep. Also, just as a reminder, we've been fortunate thus far in terms of the winter weather, but the snow will surely be coming soon enough. And just a reminder to make sure we clear the sidewalks, particularly if you have access to crosswalks and public walkways. You are more or less on the hook for getting that done, as well as the parking ban, which is in effect at this point. We also have, just to the manager, just as a note before I forgot, based on a resident concern, the roadway at Oak Ridge Cemetery, closest to Everett Street, apparently has a great deal of significant washout that needs to be addressed. Obviously, this is not necessarily the ideal time to do so, but I wanted to make sure that that was put forward. And then lastly, just as a reminder, a note that the town hall itself will be closed on Friday, December 26th, the day after Christmas, and Friday, January 2nd, the day after the New Year's Day holiday. Councilor Manna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Could I just get some clarification on the Charter Review Committee? Because it's to my understanding that a Charter Review Committee is to review the charter to make sure it's not in conflict with state laws and with our bylaws. And a Charter Review Commission, which is elected by the people, is the one that goes through it and recommends changes, if any changes are to be brought. So I'm just a little confused on that. If you could just clarify that?
I did not happen to bring my copy of the charter with me tonight, but my recollection of what I saw was that they would have the ability to review and make recommendations. If that is not the case, we will rectify that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Number 6, agenda item number 6, rather, town manager's announcements, and I'll turn it over to the town manager, Mr. Pecos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. As the chair just indicated, Town Hall and all non-essential personnel will be closed on December 26th and January 2nd. That is the day after Christmas and the day after New Year's. Those are both Fridays following a national holiday. We're open for only 4 hours. I dare say there will not be a lot of public business being conducted that day were we to be open. Secondly, as you're probably all aware, the President has declared the day after Christmas, because it's a Friday, a day off with pay for all federal employees, so we're kind of following that example. Now, there's been a bit of controversy about this of late, concerning the school's plans, the town's plans, et cetera. So I did have a conversation with the superintendent today to make sure she was aware this was in fact what our plan is, and I suggested to her that perhaps the school might wish to consider acting in a similar manner so that we are consistent with respect to what we do for our employees. She indicated that she would take that under advisement and would decide. Obviously, we have no jurisdiction over school department employees, but she did appreciate having that information and would consider that and take whatever steps she and the school committee deem appropriate. One last call for the MMA annual meeting in Boston. If anyone is going to the Maya luncheon, I've got to send this in tomorrow. Actually, I'm a day late, a couple days late, but we'll get it in tomorrow. Right now, I only have Councilor Manna. Anyone else? Going, gone. You are?
Yes, but I would tell you.
Okay, great.
That's okay.
Okay, great.
There's no extra tickets.
And the last thing, oh, that's it, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 7, swearing in and presentations. We have 2 tonight, or 2.5 in a way. So the first is from the boards and committees, economic development, and that presentation will be done by Chairman Mark Moran.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mark Moran. I'm the chairman of the Economic Development Commission. And I'm just here tonight to let you know a few of the things we've been working on, things we've done over the past years. The EDC started back around 2007. And when we started the commission, we were brought together as a group to discuss TIFs for the town. A TIF is a tax increment financing that the town, in cooperation years ago with the state, used to give business people, or well, mostly businesses who are starting up in town, breaks on their taxes, basically. And it was something that was implemented by the state many, many years ago. So what we had done is we had been put together as a group. There was a group of 6 of us originally. And what we did was we would meet, and as a company would come in and give us an application for a TIF. And we would score that TIF according to what we did. We made up a scorecard to kind of help us along with these TIFs. And what we did was, it was based on the investment of the company, what was going to be put into the town, the amount of employees they were going to have, and increase employees in the future, and whether they were going to use an existing building, build a new building, use a condemned building, not so much condemned, let's say just an empty building someplace in town. So all these things played into basically what we consider the TIF. And a TIF would be basically to a 5 to a 10-year increment of taxes being reduced to help the business get started in town. Now, this TIF also had to be approved. Once we came through our committee and we made our suggestions of what we thought should happen, and it would come up to the council, but before that, it would go to the state. The state had to approve this also before it would come here. And what we've done in the past, the most recent one was that the council passed was expert laser over on Pleasant Street in the old DPW building. So that's the most recent one most of you people would probably remember. That was done last year. We've done quite a few over the years, actually, but that's the most recent one. The process of doing it is where we meet with them. They fill out an application. They come in. We meet with them once to go over all their plans and whatever they plan on doing, and then we sit down basically as a group and discuss and come up with a recommendation for the council to either, most of them have been approved over the years. I haven't remember one that was disapproved. It was always approved. And the type of business and how much they're going to invest in the town makes a difference on what kind of break they get, basically. So that's basically what the TIF was, what we were put together for as a group to start on. And that's, like I said, started many years ago. Some of the more recent things we've worked on, back in 2013, one of our members, Otto Prohaska, you might remember him bringing the Chinese delegation to town. And he worked with Clark University on that. That is still something that's still active, as far as I know, as far as the Chinese. They're going to be coming back again. But at this point right now, Otto has been invited at one point or another to go back to China too. So he's kind of our liaison going out to China. But it's all in the purpose for schooling, possibly bringing a school here, or at least trade to the town in some businesses. The other things we worked on in the last year also was the Southbridge Economical Foundation, Southbridge Educational Foundation. Through a bunch of meetings, and we realized that the schools are a very, very important thing in town, and having the schools right brings businesses in town, brings people in town, and having the best schools we can is the best thing we can do. So what we discussed with a few different people is Southbridge does not have a foundation where a scholarship found, well, not so much scholarship, it's all kinds of different foundations together. But other schools like Bay Path, Tantascwa, Shepherd Hill have these foundations that they're not really involved with the town. The town has no involvement in it. It's basically, it's a private thing. And what we attempted to do was put a bunch of people together to start this, because we felt it would be a good thing for the schools. And as it sits right now, that is still ongoing. They are in the process of organizing themselves and getting into, I know they selected a chairman, they've selected a treasurer, they've selected a secretary now. So as of the first of the year, I think is when they're going to really start going. I have sat in on a few of their meetings to try to help them to get along, get going. But if anybody is interested in the town that would be interested in doing that, they need the membership. They need more people to be involved with it. Because a handful of people is not going to do it. You need a group of people. So that's one thing we worked on last year and this year. The other thing we had back on December 4th here, we've been putting on a business seminar to bring people into town and people in town who are looking to start businesses. Back on December 4th, we had a seminar here for 1 hour, and we brought people in, and that seminar was basically for a business plan and financing, to give them an idea of what to do. We had put flyers out, and many people did show up. We have another one planned for January 8th. We have another one planned. And that one would discuss the permitting process here in town. So in other words, if anybody comes in, that's the biggest thing they have to do is clear the permitting process. If, say, someone's going to open a restaurant, they've got to go through and they're going to do renovations, they've got to go through the building department, they've got to go through the health department, the fire department, and we're hoping to have all those departments here for that night, January 11th. It'll be at 7 o'clock, and we're hoping to get as much cooperation as we can. The more departments we have here, the better. We've already contacted the ones we'd like to have here because they're the ones mostly involved in the permitting process. And if we can get those people here, and it's going to be not much more than an hour, and we're going to give each department, whoever we can get here, about 5 minutes to talk, basically. Get up there, introduce themselves, tell them what the type of permits they'll get from that department. And at that point, we'll have an ending seminar a little bit at the end. We'll have a few people talking, and it should be just about an hour. But it's more informational and trying to get the people comfortable with the people in the town hall and have them come in. Because that's the biggest thing we've seen over the years, where they're just afraid to come in here because they don't know what to expect, especially someone who is not sure exactly how things run. They're kind of afraid to take that first step, and this is kind of a way of inviting them in more. So that's basically the things we've been working on recently. If anybody's got any other questions.
You had said that the date was, what was the date for that meeting?
January 8th.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
At 7 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Right here.
It'll be here in the council chambers, yeah.
Councilor Steves?
You mentioned that, you mentioned the permitting process, and I was wondering, I know that there's been a process going on for some time about devising a standardized permitting guidebook. Where does that stand?
Yeah,
I've never seen one.
We've revised that permitting book. We used to have one permitting book, and we split it into two now. We've got the commercial side and we've got the residential side. So that's one of the things we'll be discussing that night also.
Okay.
Most of this, people coming in, it's going to be the commercial side.
Right.
We're looking at that night. People starting businesses. So, but we have split it.
Okay. And the other thing I was wondering is, you mentioned TIFs earlier. Is there an organized follow-up to look at, make sure that the businesses are actually meeting their TIF requirements, rather than just, it's because you often hear about people getting TIFs and then nobody follows up to see if they're actually qualifying to get the tax breaks that they should be.
Once we get people interested, like last Thursday night when we had that, on December 4th, we had that meeting. We had a little question and answer period after, where we then talked to, I'd say about 5 to 6 interested people. And those people they'll be directly contacting Sandy to make sure we keep online and keep them involved. And that's one thing we'd like to try to do down in the economic development, is try to keep people involved and not so much involved, how should I put this? We just want to make sure if they got any questions at all, we can answer them, and we can just keep the process going. We don't want anybody to stall and stop.
And that's good, but maybe I phrased my question wrong. Is there a process by which people who have already received TIFs, that there's some follow-up to make sure that they meet the requirements, so we're not just giving them tax breaks for nothing? That's what I mean.
Right. There is a follow-up, and we do check with them, usually done through Sandy's office, to make sure that they honor what we've given them, basically. And as far as I know, everybody has over the years. There's never been a problem as far as, I know we have not so much a problem, but there was one time when someone could not live up to their exact what we gave them. And but they did turn it around and they managed it. We gave them a little lengthy, we lengthened it out a little bit. But they ended up fine in the long run. But we do check on it, make sure that if we're giving them a break of, say, $1,000, we want to make sure that they're living up to their part of the bargain.
Yeah, me too.
Is what it is,
Right.
basically. Yeah.
Okay.
And we haven't had any problems really to speak of with that. Everybody's been doing what they're supposed to.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Well, I appreciate your time, Mr. Moran, and hopefully we're able to see a good-sized turnout for that meeting on January 8th.
That would be nice. And the more people, the better.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
With Mr. Moran up here at the podium, I would just like to point out that this year he did some nice free work up there at the airport and fixed a unstable ramp that went into the entrance. We appreciate that help. And I don't know if any of you know it, I didn't know until this year, but it's he and his family who go down to the common and actually put the lights up on the gazebo each year. We saw them climbing on the roof a few weeks ago, and we were very surprised. And so kudos to you and your children and your wife who take the time each year to do that for the community. Didn't realize you were the ones, so thank you.
We all enjoy doing it, and it's something that we look forward to, and, you know.
But we'll keep that up.
Not so much taking them down in the middle of January, but
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to B, grant presentations. I'll turn it over to the town manager, Mr. Pecos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very pleased to advise the council that we've received a couple more grants. One is very substantial in its amount. The other one is a small amount but has a big impact. The first of these is an $844,800 Economic Development Fund grant. This one is a product of work that Sandy Ackley, Senator Moore, and developer Hunter Foote collaborated on. And great credit is due to all of them for the hard work that they did. And this will result in a substantial amount of revitalization just off of Main Street, of a property down there. I'm very pleased to advise the council about this because this fits very well with the council's initiative to start doing economic development of the downtown area, restore blighted properties, get them put to good, sound economic use, create jobs, create new tax revenue. This is absolutely a fantastic project. Kudos to all of them. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, turn it over to Sandy for some details.
Thank you. I'm really delighted to introduce Hunter Foote to you, the owner of the building we know as 1-11 Central Street. He's going to tell you just a little bit about what the project entails. I just wanted to let you know where the funding is coming from. Community Development Block Grant funds are actually a wide spectrum of assistance that they can give. And the Economic Development Fund is one of them. It's kind of a funny name for it because the only thing that they will fund right now is residential use above on the second floor or third floor of a downtown building. But that's because they feel that that's the best way to support economic development in downtowns. So they released funds if you wanted to apply. It's a difficult program to apply for. Not everybody can do it. It's really highly specialized. You have to have somebody who's willing to go through the steps, and that's what we have in Mr. Foote. So I'm going to stop yakking and let him tell you what we're planning to do there. Hunter?
Thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you, councilors. I am very happy to be spearheading this project. We bought the building over a year ago, vacant on the second floor. What a shame, and mostly vacant on the first floor, actually, until we moved our office in. It's the big brick building on the corner of Main Street and Central Street, heading down across from the parking lot for Savers Bank. We purchased the building in hopes that we would obtain some financing to renovate the second floor into housing. Housing is phenomenal on the second floors of these buildings because it brings people into the town, it brings people into the downtown. You can walk the downtown. I live downtown and I love it. So if we could have some more apartments for some other residents, that would be phenomenal. Now we will be constructing 6 apartments on the second floor and 1 apartment on the first floor. They will all be hopefully off-grid with some solar panels we're putting onto the roof. The grant is covering the solar panels. The grant is covering a new roof, full compliance with and exceeding all energy codes, so it will be very well insulated. All new systems, new flooring. It's currently completely empty up there, apart for some temporary walls, so it will build out everywhere from where it stands now to the completed product. We'll have hardwood floors, we'll have hopefully granite countertops, we'll have tile floors in the bathroom, so they'll be very high-quality units, ones that we will be proud to have in our town. Now, as far as the way this grant project works, it as Sandy said, funds development projects in the second and third floors of downtown buildings, and that's really a tough prospect to do because when you do a large-scale development or when you change a use from commercial to residential, it kicks in compliance with all the building codes, which is fine if you're building a new structure, but when you're doing an adaptive reuse project like we're doing, it's very, very difficult to comply with 2014 building codes with a building that was built in 1200 BC, like a lot of our buildings downtown. So the grant will fund about $750,000 towards the renovations. And we'll be putting in some equity to that as well, so it will top about over $1 million that we'll be putting into the downtown to build these seven apartments. The majority of them will be affordable as well, so they won't be priced out of the market. And the affordability requirement, I believe, goes for 15 years? Yes. Yeah, the affordability requirement will go for 15 years. So that is what we're looking to do. We are very excited about it. If you want to come in and chat, we'll be happy to show you the plans. We're at 9 Central Street, Bellis Real Estate Services. You can pop by the office between 8 to 4, and I think we have the plans right out on the front desk. So we'll be happy to show you around. And we're very happy that Sandy and the Economic Development Department and the town is so powerfully behind us and so behind development. And it's great to see this energy in the council. It's great to see this energy in the Economic Development Department and the many, many weekends that we've worked together, mostly Sandy. And it's terrific. So thank you very much for having me here, and thank you for the support for the project.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Foote? Thank you, and best of luck, obviously. Moving on to agenda item number 8, Citizens Forum. If there are any, I'm sorry, do you have something else?
One other grant announcement for you.
Oh, okay.
The second grant announcement is from the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. It's for $12,500. And while it's a very modest amount of money, it's the money that we use to hire expert services, consulting services, and counsel services, as in counsel, as in lawyer, for the purpose of analyzing the proposal that recently came to us that you approved for solar PPA power purchase arrangement. So that $12,000 grant covered all the expenses that we had to pay in relation to that. It will also cover all the expenses as we get the PPA set up and we begin to receive those solar credits and the income. That'll start taking place in the spring and next summer. And by about a year from now, we should be at full tilt in terms of realizing the full $500,000 a year potential of that project. So just wanted the council to be aware of that too. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to Citizens Forum, and if at this time there are any residents or citizens here that would like to come forward and speak on something that is not on tonight's agenda, please come forward with your name and address, please. You'll get 5 minutes.
John Pulaski, 3 Genesis Street. Just following up on what I've been up here for the last 3 meetings. Some I forgot last week. Councilor Churrasco had suggested that I needed a lawyer to check the date of when that effective date of the agreement would be, because there seemed to be an opinion among the councilors some of them, or maybe all of you, that it was the end of May of this past year, because that's when the original agreement was signed. But I followed the good counselor's advice. I found an attorney that was kind enough to look over, because I have all the paperwork from the site assignment in which we weren't allowed to speak at the end because people had to go to Disneyland, and we didn't get to do the closings. So just because one attorney, as you folks know, you can ask 3 attorneys for an opinion and you can get 3 different answers. But it just makes me a little more confident to come up here a 4th time. And I don't know if you folks have done your due diligence and sought the opinion of an attorney. But after that first agreement, I see people all the time. A counselor said something at the last meeting, saying something that was in that first agreement. We have good experience, I think, with temporary town managers. I liked Mr. Healy, too, much of what Mr. Healy did. And he sat down and spoke to all the people that were concerned about the landfill changes, thanked all of us publicly, and got a new agreement. And part of the new agreement was what they called an effective date of the landfill. And the effective date of the landfill was June 8th. So that 7-year period of time when we're supposed to commence this study will be June 8th of next year. Now, I know the horse is out of the barn. The vote was made 3 weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. But if that study is being done, perhaps, because there are changes, like the road, at the bottom of Woodstock Road, it was going to be one thing. It became very different because circumstances required it. Same thing with the sidewalk. Couldn't be done at the beginning. Things change after the agreement's made. Begging last week didn't work. So what I'm going to try today is to respectfully request that you folks communicate with whoever's doing the study and ask them to mosey on about it, to look at, for example, even what's going on with the mass incinerator up in Auburn, where I was surprised. I'm going to bring up both sides. The rates are going down from $75 a ton in 2 years down to $66 a ton. So I'm going to come up here. That concerned me. Wow, someplace, at one place anyway, the rates are going down. But that's still much more than what we're getting. If you take the tonnage that goes there, which is over 300,000 tons a year, and you multiply it by what they're getting up there, somebody's collecting $20 million. And we're not getting much of that. And we were promised front page Worcester Telegram after the council passed that, in letters as big as the day they killed JFK. Not just headlines, letters the size of a fist. Southbridge was getting, I think they said, it was over $140 million just to fill up that landfill that wasn't going to go beyond that postage stamp. So I know if I got elected last June, I would do something about that missing $100 million. Maybe even our taxes wouldn't have gone up if we got some of that $100 million missing dollars. I'm not exaggerating. Look it up. Telegram.com. Last week of May. That's a lot of missing money. And the taxpayers in this town, I don't have to ask around much. I'm sure they would appreciate that easing the budget. I'm sure our school program would appreciate maybe wouldn't a $5 million do wonders? Get things to where we'd like them? Fix some of the roads in town? We could even fix our water lines. That was the idea of that. We're going to take this risk, this additional health cost, but we're going to get a lot of money. I remember thinking, we're not going to beat that. $100 million? But now that we're not getting it, please, I know you're not getting paid for your work except town staff, but the councilors, you're doing a lot for this town. You're not even getting a paycheck. You're not even getting reimbursed for your gas. But if you can pull that money out of a hat, because that's what was promised, you'll be doing we'll be making statues to you people
Mr.
in the
Pawlowski.
future. Thank you.
Yep, all set,
Have a
or?
wonderful holiday.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other residents who would like to, okay, briefly, Councilor Vecchia, rather.
Through you to the town manager. I want you to look into this, okay? Because I don't like somebody accusing us that we're not doing our job properly. So why don't you look into this? Why don't we, can you hear me now? I would like the town manager to look into these comments that Mr. Pawlowski made, because I don't think there's any missing money, okay? Will you look into this $100 million that he talks about?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Randy Butler. I live on 93 Eastwood Road, first floor. Somebody's calling me, but it's not that important. The reason why I'm here tonight is I was here the 11th of December and 11th of November, and I talked about a dog that we found. And I want to start off, this is a wallet and this is a phone. This is not what I found. These are not things you can lock up and put in a box until you find the owner. I did some research today, and I found out that there was a report done, so I came to the town hall to get it today. And all I was able to get was a very short email. Started off by saying somehow Randy Butler got involved with this dog. Yes, I got involved with this dog. I took it in for 4 days. I took care of it. I fed it. I cleaned it. I tried to find the owner of it. I was involved with that dog. So yes, that is true. But it also went down to say that they held the dog for 7 days. They did the next right thing, that they can't adopt dogs. And because of liability reasons, now that went from legally to liability. And now liability I find quite funny with all these people in this town with pit bulls and Rottweilers and other things with questionable past. And the dog I had was no larger than a Chihuahua. He also went on to say that I owned a cat for 15 years. That's about as true as that I got married in 2008, and I haven't been married. I've been around several cats. That is true. I was either not the owner of it, or it was somebody that I was involved with at the time's cat, or it was a family cat, or, last instance, because this is the cat I think they're talking about, there was a cat that we had a tenant that lived in my family's house on Eastford Road that was a tenant there and rented a downstairs apartment for many years. She left that cat behind. I did not have this cat very long. It was definitely not 15 years. I took care of it in its golden years for a little bit, but it did not. It passed away. I had to put it down with my own money because of it had a stroke or something. It was walking into walls. It was pissing in the floor. It was going to the bathroom on the floor. It lost its balance. It lost its eyesight overnight. I took it to the vet and made a very hard decision to put that cat down with my own money. Yeah, I took it to a vet. That is the only veterinarian record that I have, because I have not truly owned a pet of my own to date. Now, this Broken Tail Rescue wants a veterinarian record for a cat that's had 3 owners, 3 names, that dates back to 15 years. And I want to say that 15 years. Right? That's old for a cat. So to say it got neglected at any time, whether it was me or somebody else, is not a fair statement. I never said I never had a pet or never been around pets. I said I never had a pet that I was responsible for the vet bills. That is true. Now, we can talk about, different things. I made that decision on September 29th when I originally made this complaint about this dog. I first went to the Southbridge police station. Now, to use words carefully, I was told that this dog had they found the owner. They didn't. Okay, okay? First thing that I ran into that maybe should have had me look the other way. Second thing that I came in is when I asked about the dog, how I could get it back. Kathy's exact words were, it was not finders keepers. To me, I find that very disrespectful. Another thing that should have clued me off. I filed reports, I filed complaints with the police chief in here several days before that dog was even taken out of Southbridge. That's when something should have been done about it. That dog should never have left Southbridge. Again, to date, I have not found a law or a charter that said that dog needed to be taken away from me. Because again, animal control, broken tail rescue. Again, I'll say it again, that dog was no longer in danger of being hit by a car, being underfed, cold, hurt by another human being, or hurting somebody else as soon as I gave it a home. That's what they're there for. That's what our taxpayers' monies are paying for, and that's what all those fundraisers and donations go towards, to help to get that dog a good home. It already had one. The best thing that could have happened was that dog to stay with me because it already had somebody it was familiar with. Yes.
Mr. Bauer, you've hit your 5 minutes. If you'd like an additional 2, you can ask the council to do so.
Yeah, I would appreciate 2 more minutes.
If we have a motion,
Make a motion.
Second.
any questions, discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to finish off by saying that dog did not need to go through being locked up again, stuff like that, multiple owners, again, using donations and fundraisers' money when it already had a home. And another thing, that if that dog would have stayed with me, didn't matter when the owner stepped forward. It didn't have to be 7 days. It could have been a month from now. Could have been a year from now. If they could have proved me that dog was theirs, I would have gratefully gave it back. That was another benefit of leaving that dog where it was. And they supposedly, and this letter stopped off by saying that that they did their routine checks of a person that filled out an application. I'm here to tell you, no, they didn't. They didn't call my landlord. I know that because it's my brother. They didn't call a vet that I chose, that I was going to use and consider as a vet because it was local. I called them today. They told me Broken Tail Rescue never called them. They also didn't call another reference that I left on there. So no, they did not do their routine checks. That whole email report that took me all but 13 seconds to read was false from beginning to end. And again, I made a decision on September 29th that I regret today because I really like that dog. And I wish I was stronger that day and made somebody come up with some type of paperwork, because that's what I want in that report, is laws, steal something from Carrasco, Council Carrasco, accountability, or you know what, this would really surprise me. Somebody would come up here and admit they were wrong. Imagine that, that's hard to do, right? And with that, I'll leave it up to the floor.
Thank you. Council Vecchia?
I got an email, I think you all got an email, can you hear me? That Danny Charette, our police chief, stated that Broken Tail Rescue stated that he could not adopt a dog. Is that correct? Let me say that?
That's correct.
Well, why don't we go to the source, Broken Tail Rescue, and get a letter from them to solve this? Why wouldn't they let him adopt a dog?
Broken Tail is a private rescue agency. They have no responsibility, fortunately or otherwise, to the town. Their decisions regarding who they adopt animals to and who they do not adopt animals to is nothing we can affect or in any way have anything to do. I will tell you that the police department did talk to them and did obtain their statement that they had declined to offer the animal. And I'm truly sorry for that, sir. I don't know what their reasons are, but we cannot affect that outcome. The town does not adopt animals out. We're not in that business. We take strays however they come to the town. retain them for the statutory period if necessary for rabies observation or not, and then we bring them to a shelter. And we have several shelters we deal with. Broken Tail is one. And then once the animal is brought there, the private agency decides who they will adopt pets out to and who they will not. So if it's the council's wish, I will attempt to get such a letter, but I'm pretty sure they will decline to give us that letter.
Thank you.
Councilor Clemens?
I'm not so sure the concern that our citizen here has is in regard to, I mean, yes, Broken Tail has their rules. I've had issues with other shelters like that seem to have some very interesting rules. But I think what I would want to know is, what is the policy? He brought it up to the police or to the dog officer, as somebody had recommended, to find out if anybody had lost this dog. Was told he had to turn it over. Is this correct?
Yes.
That you had to turn it over. So I guess my question would be, as a person who might find a stray cat or a stray dog or a stray rabbit or something, right? Do we have a bylaw or a law, a rule, a regulation that says you must turn it to the police or the dog officer, and then they obviously follow protocol, which I believe she did. Obviously they had it for their 7 days, and then they gave it to the shelter because they don't send them out. But is it a law or a rule, regulation of some sort?
There's no law that I'm aware of or regulation of the council which requires someone who finds a stray dog or cat to surrender it to the police.
Right.
I think, unfortunately, it's in the category of if you don't ask the question and you keep the pet, and you don't happen to notice a lost dog or lost cat sign around town, then who would know?
Right.
And so there'd be no jurisdiction on the part of the police or anyone else. But if you bring the animal there, then I believe, for reasons of rabies observation, they're required to take it and observe it for a certain period of time if the dog is brought to their official attention.
Right.
And then at that point, it's brought to an adoption agency. Now, I'd be happy if the council's interested to find out if that's, in fact, the process. I will say that's fairly universally the process in every town I've ever worked in. Whether it's a written policy or not, I don't know. But if the council would like further follow-up on that, I'm happy to get it for you.
Well, I just think in the interest of a citizen who, again, may find a stray, obviously they take a chance at their own risk to bringing the stray into their home to begin with. I think they should need to know what, I mean, obviously, if you call up and say, did anybody report a dog missing? And you say, I found a dog, and well, you should bring it in to us. You choose not to, but that's, I guess, my question. Is it a law that you have to give it over? And if you don't, then you take the risk, or maybe you put the ad in the paper, or you find out. It sounds like, unfortunately, in your case, it was a bad lesson. It was a bad communication, perhaps, or it wasn't clear as to how it was going to proceed. But in order for us not to have this happen again, or to be clear on what our rules and regulations are, I would like to know, do we have something legally on the books that says if a citizen comes over with an animal, we are mandated to take it at that time? Or do they have the right to turn around, walk out and say, yeah, no, I'm going to keep the dog, I'll take the risk of rabies, or, do you know what I mean? It just seems like that's the answer. I think you're banging your head against the wall when it comes to the shelter.
No, I understand that, but like I said before, I was not going to bring it to the police station. I only informed them that I found it and gave a brief description of it. I was told over the phone, because I was in Webster at the time at Kentucky Fried Chicken, that they actually had the owner right there at the police station to claim the dog. That's why we brought it in. That was not true.
Okay.
Then when I asked questions about, I don't want to give this dog up until you find the owner, it's happy where it's at, and I'm more than willing to take care of it, I was told that comment in those very words is not finders keepers.
Okay.
I was more than willing to take that dog back home with me.
Right. So that's where the concern is, as far as I can see. That's the concern. Obviously, you're not going to get it back at this point. There's nothing we can do to intervene with the way the adoption agency handled it. However, we can hopefully prevent this type of thing in the future if we just know the policy and how we're reacting to this type of thing. That's my concern going forward from here. I don't believe we can
can help you
Well,
in
that
any
I
way.
understand. That's why I've said that from the beginning. I don't
Right.
want this to
Well, I
happen.
heard your
to that
comment about
citizen.
someone not apologizing,
Yeah.
so I think that's, I understand where he's coming. As a citizen, I
Yeah.
believe, I understand where you're coming from, so.
Councilor Carrasco?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to our town manager. Yes, I consider myself Mr. Accountability, and some of us think it's funny, but I don't. If somebody did lie to you, that's wrong. And I
Well, they
believe
did.
again, I can't make that assumption, so if you feel they did, there's ways we can find out. If you call the police department, they are recorded lines. So if we can find that out, because it's a recorded line, and see, if it is that they did lie, I would like something done about that, because that's not public service in any agency. And second, again, I apologize that this happened. Hopefully you did enjoy your Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, we did.
All
Dog
right.
did too.
I have Councilor Vandal and Councilman.
This isn't new to me. I've heard the same story from a lady on Pleasant Street. She found a little chihuahua, and she got in touch with the dog people, and they told her that they got to take the dog in, and she says, well, if nobody claims that I want this dog, and she didn't say anything. She got rid of the dog, and the dog, she didn't get the dog. They gave it to somebody else. Maybe because it was a real nice chihuahua. I think in the years past, we had dog officers that used to get the real good dogs, and, they'd sell them to other people. I know that for a fact. Thank you.
Councilor Manna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. There are Mass General laws out there, and under Mass General Law, Chapter 134, Section 2, Stray Beast Report of Finding, Mr. Butler was obligated to report the finding, and he did that, if he wants to look up that law. And also, under the same Chapter 134, Section 6, rights to owners and finder of stray beasts, and it states in this Mass General Law, if the owner of stray beasts appears within 1 year after the finding thereof and proves title thereto, he shall, if they have not been sold under the preceding section, have restitution thereof upon payment except as provided in Section 2 of all reasonable expenses incurred by the finder in keeping such beasts and in complying with the chapter. But if they have been sold, he shall be entitled to receive the proceeds of the sale after deducting the expense aforesaid. If no such owner appears within said year, the beast or the proceeds shall inure to the finder, provided he has compiled with this chapter. So, I suppose you could call the Attorney General's office, and they should have somebody up there that could help you out with these matters in the Mass General laws, or even your state rep. He may be able to help you out with this, but there are Mass General laws on this,
All right.
so.
I got one more thing to add. If I didn't bring it to the police station, she told me over the phone that she was going to come to my house and pick it up as well. And with that, I'll thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other residents who'd like to come forward as part of Citizens Forum here tonight? Going once, going twice. Sold. Moving on to agenda item number 9, vote to confirm the appointment of Sylvia Gauman to the Council on Aging for a 2-year term effective immediately through June 30, 2016, due to member resignation.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Peregrine?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yep.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Krasko?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Agenda item number 10, vote to confirm the appointment of Virginia Rappo to the Council on Aging for a 3-year term effective immediately through June 30, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Peregrine?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yep.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Krasko?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 11, Councilors Forum, and we'll start with Councilor Vandal.
I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, because I think this will be the last time we see it before Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Vecchia.
Thank you. Through you to the town manager, I watched the school committee meeting last Tuesday night, and some of the things I heard were some people didn't know how much money they had encumbered this year. They don't know how much money left they have to spend, and they haven't started next year's budget yet. Prior town managers have asked the school department, school committee, to present a budget for the next year by this past Thanksgiving, meaning FY 2016. We usually have a budget by now for next year. As I asked you earlier today, Mr. Town Manager, yourself and the town accountant signed the warrants for any school disbursements?
We do.
Okay. Therefore, we should have a handle on how much money they have been spending.
We know exactly what they've spent.
Okay. What I would like is a line-by-line item on what the figure of budget was approved, how much they spent today, and how much their remaining balance is spending. Could I get that?
The council receives that on a quarterly basis already. Do you?
You received that from the school department. That school
Well,
figures are in there.
Let me just ask.
I didn't see any school figures.
The council gets that on a quarterly basis, and you, I'm advised, and you confirmed during the goals and objectives setting that you wanted to keep that on a quarterly basis.
Yes, that's fine, but I didn't.
So you don't get that?
We've not yet seen it.
Okay, so the town budget that comes to you on a quarterly basis doesn't include the school budget?
That's right.
Okay.
So what I'm asking for,
Well, we can get that for you, sure.
okay. Which brings me to my next point. I think the school committee are taking a lot of whacks that they don't deserve. I, for one, I know Cara Donovan. I know her parents, and she's a wonderful person. And also, she's on the Board of Assessors, and she knows figures. So I think the school committee has been taking a bum rap on things like this. The town council, I think we're responsible for the figures before they are, because we have to approve them all. And I just want to say, I know there's 2 school committee members out there tonight, and I've already talked to you. And we all should work together. We get this petty politics in Southbridge when one person doesn't like another, and this one's blamed for this. And I think we can work together. And I think the obligation is the town manager and the town accountant to get these figures for her, so we can work on a budget. My second thing tonight is legal fees. The school is spending too much money on legal fees, and so is in the town side. The last 4 years' legal fees for both the town side and the school side is over $1 million. On the town side, we have appointed lawyer Rob Caprera. He's the lawyer that we appoint. Of the $486,723 that the town side has spent on legal fees, $132,000 over the last 4 years went to Mr. Caprera. That's only 27% went to our town attorney. That means 73% went to other attorneys. I have talked to the town manager about this. He's on our side, and I know you got a lot on your plate, but I know you're going to do a wonderful job by putting these figures together. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I think Councilor Vecchia makes a valid point in that I don't know how it has evolved, but I can tell you that we have, on the town side, and I can't comment on the school side because I'm not familiar with it, but on the town side, we have quite a number of lawyers. Now, the general rule of thumb for municipal councils is that if you have one lawyer, you get the services of all the specialists in that lawyer's office for a very steeply discounted rate. So, for instance, The Boston law firms typically bill between $500 and $1,000 an hour, but if you hire them as your town council, then you typically get that for $180 to $200 an hour, and you get all the specialists as well, labor lawyers, real estate lawyers, et cetera. What we seem to have built is a whole separate series of appointments of a whole bunch of different law firms, and so what is happening is you're not getting the preferred rate. The rule of thumb when you hire somebody as special counsel is that you pay their regular rate, or you pay something closer to their regular rate, but you don't get that steep discount. Moreover, the charter provides that the town manager appoints town counsel. Now, this is counsel as in C-O-U-N-S-E-L, the lawyer, otherwise known as the town lawyer. They're referred to as town counsel. So, and then the council confirms that appointment, as you do all town manager appointments. Annually, I found out that the town manager, in this case Bob Reed, my predecessor, appointed 2 or 3, one town council and 2 or 3 special councils, and those were confirmed by the council as part of your annual confirmation of appointments. We're continuing to pay a bunch of additional lawyers that were not confirmed, and so they're actually not legal, at least in compliance with the charter. So what I'm doing is I'm analyzing this, and Councilor Vecchia and I have spoken about it a couple times, and I'll have a memo for you soonest when I can. The priorities that I've been working on for you, the employee health insurance, and some other things. You've been getting those big, giant memos. This is not so big and giant, but it is a fairly thoroughgoing analysis that needs to be done. And I have started working on it, and probably after the first of the year, I'll get it to you. And basically what it's going to look like is, here's what you paid, here's what you should have paid, and here's the difference. And then I'm going to say, so that it's clear once and for all, here are the following attorneys that I am appointing subject to your confirmation. And I have to have a conversation with Rob Capur, counsel, and I have to have a conversation with those other attorneys and find out what exactly are they doing for us and why, because I don't know how they all got in there. But we've got a bunch of them. I think it's about 7 or 8, thereabouts. School side, I can't comment on that. I don't know anything about it. But, that's what's happening on our side.
Councilor Steves?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a couple of things. One is that last Thursday, I was at the Board of Health meeting, and I sent everybody an email, but I just kind of wanted to let people in the public know that they were talking about the proposal, the landfill changes that are probably going to be coming forward sometime in mid-February or so, probably to general government to start with. They're not, at this point, setting up dates for site assignment hearings and that kind of stuff yet, and it's a fairly complicated process. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you should keep tabs on that process. Secondly, somebody mentioned earlier a washout on the street, and that made me think of the fact that Maureen and I took a walk down the rail trail a couple of days ago, and there's an area of the rail trail going toward Dudley, almost on the Dudley line, that is starting to wash out. It's very close to the edge of the river now, and it never was. I know that I know Concom is going to be looking at it. I don't know exactly I honestly don't know what they could do about it, since it doesn't look like there's any actual cause to it. It's just the river doing its thing. But since the rail trail is something that ideally should be something extended and could become a big part of what Southbridge could be, I wonder if we can figure out some way to reinforce it of some.
Ken made me aware of that, sent me some pictures over the weekend. I took a look, discussed it with the DPW director today. The essential problem is that we don't own the rail trail. That's owned by the Commonwealth.
Sure.
Now, we have been in dialogue. Ken initiated the dialogue, and we're following up to see if the state wants to do something, because it's their property. There's a series of permits that have to be granted. The local commission has to grant both a wetlands altering permit as well as this is under the Rivers Act jurisdiction, a 200-foot buffer for a navigable river,
right.
A perennial stream. So there would have to be a filing, there'd have to be a process where the state would have to petition the local commission for permission to repair it. So we are moving forward, but I can't tell you what the outcome will be because it's the landowner who has to initiate all that. And in this case, it's the Commonwealth, and we're hoping they will.
Okay. And also, since you mentioned DPW, one of the things I was going to ask about is if you or Heather could take a look at where things stand as far as removing that giant PCB mound that's sitting at the DPW site. It's been in limbo for years now, and
I recently received a report from the engineer and was briefed on the entire situation. There is more work being done in concert with EPA, and I would expect that somewhere after the first of the year, I don't know exactly when, they will be releasing their report to us about that.
Okay.
I do want to assure you, however, it is a very substantial and extremely complex project.
yeah, I know, from what I understand.
So removing the pile may not even be an option. This is, I've only just recently become aware of it, and it's a major league and very significant issue that we'll be facing. So we have that report coming at some point.
Okay. And also, I know that there's a couple of us in town would like to start up a citizens climate lobby group for anybody who's interested listening in the room or outside to help deal with some of the climate related issues that Southbridge may be facing, help do something to address the costs and to help promote the idea of a fee for dividend program at the federal level, and more importantly, get stuff done here in Southbridge to address what our town can do to deal with some of these issues should they come to us. So I just thought I'd mention that. Anybody who's interested, they can contact me. And my number is 508-764-8042. And also, lastly, I wish to just wish everybody who's paying attention happy Hanukkah, happy Eid, happy Christmas, happy Yule, happy Kwanzaa, happy whatever it is you celebrate, or none. And have a great weekend. Have a great holiday. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Pelican.
I'll be brief. I'll just say I'd like to say a happy holiday to everybody, and I hope everybody has a happy new year. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to follow up on the Charter Review Committee. I did find in the Charter, Chapter 12, Section 5-2, the chairperson of the Town Council, you shall appoint the Charter Review Committee this is supposed to be one every 5 years. The committee shall consist of 5 members and shall report its recommendations to the Town Council within 1 year of the date of its appointment. That's all it says, so it's kind of vague to me. It's left open to interpretation. But I remember when we were going through the petition process, we did have Attorney Goldberg up here talking to us, and I believe we did ask questions on a committee. We asked that at the public forum also. So if you could just get clarification, because I would hate to see any type of controversy like we had a few years ago in regards to this. We're trying to work together as a town. So just to have clarification on this, so everybody's on the same page, all 9 of us councilors are on the same page, all the review committee members are on the same page as to what's supposed to be done. And I just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah or season's greetings, whatever you celebrate. But to me, it's Merry Christmas, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Estrada.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to say to people, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, the other comes from Mr. Paco. Happy New Year. Well, for me, from my personal opinion, this year is very hard. But then I'm promised the next year will be different. The next year, I work more strong for you or your family. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Clemens.
Thank you. I just would like to remind you to shop locally if you have the ability to do that. We do have quite a few businesses that offer everything from clothing, wonderful plant store, gift cards for services, perhaps a car wash gift card, or maybe a laundromat gift card, or something really useful to some of your friends if you're out there doing some holiday shopping and looking for ideas. We do have things right here in this community, and people used to say, you know, how are we going to keep businesses here? And I've always said, we 9 aren't the only ones keeping the businesses here. Everybody out there has got to do their part for this community and shop locally if possible, certainly. It is the thing to do here in the holiday season. So I wish you all the best during your travels and your celebrating with family and friends, and hopefully a wonderful new year. There's lots of work to be done here in Southbridge, and we encourage you to get involved and be part of that. So thank you, and Merry Christmas to all you fellow councilors here. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Carrasco?
Yes, I just got a few things. First of all, you might want to have it out, yes. Last week, I made a statement in regards to the school committee, and not the school committee, well, the school district or the school administration, the superintendent, however you want to interpret it, about 5.5 days, which totaled almost 50 hours. Today, obviously, I received 3 emails, 2 phone calls, because it was said, or they read it, about the town being closed on the day after Christmas and New Year's, which I quickly called our town manager and asked several questions in regards to why was this done, how it was done, how is it being taken care of. And I quickly also suggested to our town council, to our town manager, that he also call our superintendent and make it clear that whatever happens, if the town manager has decided, in which he has, to do the 4 hours on the Friday after Christmas and New Year's, to make sure that that message is clearly communicated to the school department and the superintendent, and also say that it should be followed suit, if that's what they should choose to do. I am not here to bring war to this town council or to the school committee. What's good for us should be good for them. If there's people in this building that are getting paid 4 hours, then those central staff and the administrators on the school side, if the superintendent or that administrator, whoever it may be that has the power, gives them that day and that option, that should happen. One thing that I want to advise this council, last Tuesday, there's a concern on the school committee side in regards to wars being picked at. I voiced to them that I'm 1 out of 9, and I have pledged to the people to bring a level of respect to this council, and I urge the council also to handle themselves in that same manner. We will disagree. We won't agree with everything. We won't agree here. We might not agree with the way they're handling business on that side. But at the same time, we still need to be respectful. They are elected officials. They got there by the voice of the people. So let's work together. Let's take the next few weeks and reflect and come back in a new year to work hard for our community, because that's what we were elected to do. So the other thing, I know Santa Claus came early. He was here in November. My only concern is I hope he comes back before Christmas and brings us finished sidewalks. That is my only concern. I hope he comes and brings us that Christmas present, that the sidewalks will be finished by Christmas Day. But he already came into town, so we got to hope that he remembers us again. But the only thing I have, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and see you guys next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 12, discussion of next meeting date.
Monday, January 12th, 2015, 7 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Thank you. And agenda item number 13 is adjournment.
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned at 8:26.